Night of February 22nd, 1945. Under Mount Suribachi, on the volcanic island of Iwo Jima, a group of Japanese soldiers huddles in a damp, dark tunnel. The air is heavy with the smell of sweat, gunpowder, and desperation. A young lieutenant raises his sword, eyes shining with fanatic fervor, and shouts, "Tennohika Banzai, long live the Emperor." The men around him respond with a hoarse chorus, ready to launch themselves in a final charge against the American lines. It's what everyone expects. It's what Japanese military doctrine demands: a glorious, swift, honorable death, a Banzai attack. But at that moment, a different order arrives. A coded message, transmitted through underground wire from the northern headquarters. Banzai attacks forbidden. Defend every meter through infiltration and crossfire tactics. Kuribayashi. These words not only contradict centuries of samurai tradition, they challenge the very soul of the Imperial Japanese Army. And they come from a man who, more than any other, understood the terrible asymmetry of the war his country was waging. Tadamichi Kuribayashi was not just a general. He was a realistic strategist, an experienced diplomat, and above all, a man who had seen up close the industrial power of the United States. He knew that against a war machine capable of producing a ship a day and thousands of planes a month, suicidal heroism was not virtue, it was waste. Since the beginning of the Pacific War, the Banzai attack had been Japan's tactical signature. In Bataan, in Guadalcanal, in Corregidor, Japanese soldiers threw themselves in human waves against enemy positions. Relying on ferocity, contempt for death, and surprise to break American lines. These tactics, inspired by the Bushido Code, worked in the early years of the war, when the enemy was still disorganized and surprised. But as the United States mobilized its economy and logistical might, reality changed drastically. In Tarawa, in November 1943, Banzai attacks resulted in thousands of Japanese deaths with no tactical gain. In Saipan, in July 1944, desperate charges were swept away by machine guns and heavy artillery before even reaching enemy trenches. General Holland Smith, commander of the Marine Corps, would write in his 1944 report, "Our casualty estimates always factored in a major final Banzai attack. It was almost a tactical certainty. The Americans didn't just expect these attacks, they planned for them." It was in this context that Kuribayashi took command of Iwo Jima in June 1944. Appointed personally by Prime Minister Hideki Tojo, he arrived on the island with a clear mission: transform it into a fortress that would delay the American advance as long as possible. But unlike his predecessors, Kuribayashi didn't plan a symbolic defense. He planned a calculated slaughter. For 8 months, he oversaw the construction of an impressive underground network. 18 kilometers of interconnected tunnels, 5,000 concrete and steel pillboxes, field hospitals, ammunition depots, and even an internal telephone network. Nothing was left on the surface. Everything was hidden, camouflaged, integrated into the island's geology. His military doctrine, compiled in the combat code for the Iwo Jima garrison, was revolutionary. In August 1944, he wrote to his officers, "We will not die in suicidal attacks. Each man will inflict 10 casualties on the enemy before dying. Dig deep positions. Fire from the protection of pillboxes. Do not expose your positions." It was a complete reversal of Japanese military logic. Instead of trying to repel the enemy on the beach, where they would have full naval and air support, Kuribayashi would allow the Marines to land. He would invite them in. The beaches would be just the beginning of a killing field. The real firepower would be in the Mount Suribachi hills, where interconnected bunkers would create impossible crossfire zones. This approach generated intense internal resistance. Many officers, educated in the cult of the offensive and individual glory, saw passive defense as cowardice. Among the most reluctant was Colonel Baron Takaichi Nishi, an Olympic hero from Los Angeles 1932, where he won gold in equestrianism. Nishi was a symbol of modern, aristocratic Japan, but also a man deeply tied to traditional values. He argued that honor demanded a direct confrontation, a visible, heroic death. For him, dying hidden in a tunnel, without the enemy even seeing his face, was unworthy of a samurai. Kuribayashi, however, was relentless. He knew the war was no longer about honor, it was about efficiency. And he threatened court-martial for anyone who disobeyed his orders. When the battle began on February 19, 1945, the American Marines landed expecting the usual chaos of the first days. Night attacks, frenzied charges, cries of Banzai echoing across the island. Instead, they found an oppressive silence. The beaches were almost empty. But as soon as they advanced a few meters, hell opened up. Machine guns hidden on the slopes, 105 cannons camouflaged in caves. Anti-personnel mines and precision mortars turned every step into a deadly lottery. Captain Dave E. Severance of Easy Company, 28th Marines, would later describe, "We expected them every night, but only got mortars and grenades. It was disorienting. You never knew where the next shot was coming from." American intelligence had completely underestimated the defense. They expected 13,000 defenders and an island that would fall in 3 days. They found 21,000 men buried in an invisible fortress. On the first day, 2,400 Marines fell. The 3-day battle turned into a 36-day nightmare. And for the first time in the Pacific War, the Americans could not locate the enemy command, nor force a decisive confrontation. They were fighting the island itself. Despite Kuribayashi's tactical success, the pressure for a Banzai attack grew among the more traditionalist officers. With the situation becoming desperate in March, a group led by Colonel Nishi organized, on the night of March 8th, what would be the only major Banzai attack on Iwo Jima. About 1,000 men, many drunk on sake to calm their nerves, gathered silently before launching themselves against the American lines. The result was catastrophic. The enemy positions were already prepared. Heavy machine guns opened fire in continuous bursts. At dawn on March 9th, more than 800 Japanese bodies covered the ground. The attack not only failed, it wasted the garrison's last trained and cohesive soldiers. Colonel Nishi disappeared in the action and was declared dead on March 22nd. Captain Sunizo Wacha, Kuribayashi's staff officer, wrote in his diary, "The attack was a useless waste of brave soldiers." Kuribayashi was furious. His meticulous plan had been sabotaged by the stubbornness of the traditionalists. Kuribayashi's strategy, however, had already achieved its objective. On Iwo Jima, for the first time, American casualties nearly equaled the Japanese, a ratio of 1 to 1.2, compared to the average of 1 to 5 in other Pacific battles. The United States suffered over 26,000 casualties, including nearly 7,000 dead. The island, expected to be taken in days, resisted for over a month. And psychologically, the absence of Banzai attacks was devastating for the Marines. Without the cathartic relief of a final confrontation, the tension was constant, unbearable. A veteran would describe years later, "They didn't attack. They made us come to them. You never saw them. It was like fighting the island itself." Kuribayashi remained in command until the end. On March 23, 1945, he sent his last radio message. "All officers and men of Chichijima, goodbye from Iwo." That same night, he led a final attack with his last 300 men. But true to his doctrine until his last breath, It was not a Banzai attack. It was a silent infiltration operation, intended to cause maximum damage before the inevitable end. His body was never identified. He chose anonymity, the antithesis of the samurai glory so many sought. Kuribayashi's legacy transcends Iwo Jima. His deep defense tactics directly influenced the defense of Okinawa and anticipated guerrilla warfare strategies used decades later. From Vietnam to Afghanistan, his methods are still studied today in military academies worldwide as an example of how tactical intelligence can overcome material disadvantage. But beyond the strategist, there is the man. In the letters he wrote daily to his wife Yashii and his son Taro, Kuribayashi reveals a human heart, full of longing, hope, and sadness. "My only wish," he once wrote, "is that our children grow up strong and wise." In another, he said, "True courage is not in dying, but in knowing why you fight." Kuribayashi did not save Iwo Jima, no one could. But he transformed certain defeat into an act of unprecedented tactical and human resistance. He proved that even amidst the madness of total war, it is possible to choose. Between blind tradition and strategic reason, between empty glory and silent effectiveness. And by renouncing the Banzai, he didn't just break a military tradition. He redefined what it means to fight with courage,